This one is of China's uh, prime consumer age demographics, so people aged 25 to 54. And basically, it in 2025, it's going to contract by about 10 million people.
Mm.
And this is why I think that I think there's two big takeaways from this one. One, China's consumer base is basically in terminal decline. So that is going to be a major headwind for Chinese things like Chinese retail sales growth and all those sorts of things going forward. However, I think it also means that Chinese data needs to be assessed through a very different lens. It's all well and good to say, oh, well, Chinese retail sales have underperformed, blah, blah, blah. But when you put Chinese retail sales into per capita terms and the population is declining so dramatically, that's particularly the prime consumer age demographic, if you put it into those per capita terms, it actually looks very good. And I think that that's something that really just needs to be factored into considerations about China going forward. Just the fact that China could do very well at a per capita basis. They could easily grow their retail spending in real terms by 2, 3, 4%. But because of the contraction in the size of their consumer populace, sorry, grow their retail sales in per capita terms by that level. But because of the decline in their size of their consumer base, it makes things look a lot worse than they actually are. And that, I think, is going to be the focus of the Chinese government. Yes, they want economic growth. Yes, they want the top line. But what they really want is for the average person in the street to do well, because that is ultimately what matters to the stability of China as an economy and China as a nation.
Yeah, I had a couple of wicked thoughts as you were talking there. One, of course, is well, the solution, look at Australia, is just ramp up migration. That'll solve your population problem, won't it? Because the household formation in Australia is predominantly now migration driven rather than local birth driven. But the other is the strong initiative from China over the last few years to drive household consumption higher is working. It is working,
Yeah,
and it's working quite interestingly. And so they're able to sell more of their goods, locally into China, and that the overall level of prosperity in China is actually on a per capita basis still growing.
exactly. I think the problem for China is they've overcapitalized.
Mm.
They've overcapitalized on property in a massive way. One of the former National Bureau of Statistics deputy heads came out, I think it was last year, and said basically we could pretty much house the entire population of China over again. There's that much empty space.
Yeah.
So there's that part. There's that aspect. But on the other hand, they just don't have the capacity in their consumer base to be able to consume the amount of goods that they've committed to manufacturing through this enormous growth and through these enormous subsidies to the manufacturing sector. And that is, I think, going to be a big story going forward. I think that Trump may have fired the first shots of the latest round of trade wars, but the most bitterly contested ones are going to be the ones with China.
Yes.
Because it's all well and good that you've got to pay a bit of extra, that maybe the company that's exporting into the US has to take a bit of a hit, or the consumers need to pay a little bit more in the US. But when it's local jobs on the line, and when it's Chinese goods treading on the toes of local manufacturing, that is going to be the really bitterly contested ones. And I think that China is going to be just as aggressive and perhaps even more so as Trump in pursuing this, because they need to export that capacity. They need to make good on those investments they've made in their manufacturing capacity. But by the same token, all these countries, the Chilean steel industry, the French car industry, you know, the German, the German appliance industry, pick one, they all will need to defend their domestic economies and their domestic employment markets against Chinese goods. Otherwise, they risk losing them forever, and that is going to be the story. Everyone can talk talk crap about Trump and, oh, we're going to align with China. No, you're not. I mean, you can, but it would be the dumbest thing you'll ever do, and it'll be one of the last things you ever do to your industrial economy, because after they're finished, there won't be anything left.